Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up. Alrighty then. Okay, let's see. I always do that. I clap right into the mic, or I snap, or I pop, or do something like that into the mic. Sorry about that. Yeah, I am. Seriously. Anywho, all right. So, it's a couple things to cover, and the cool part about it is that the original Substack build went pretty good. Um, so I mentioned this in the last video, which is on Patreon right now. Um, putting them all together, like how I sketched it out, how I drafted everything, and then specifically walking through the Substack platform. So what we're gonna do is to make sure nothing gets missed here. Let's see, make sure everybody's on the same page because I mean it's easy to if you haven't been in Substack before, if you've never worked with Substack before, or maybe you have and you're trying to figure out, well, what do I want to do? How do I want to set it up? How do I want to actually get it going? Um, to fit your really how you want the branding to fit, because and that's one thing I want to call out. I said this in the other video, but I'm going to go over a little bit of what I did before for those who are not able to join, because the previous video what I did is move that all over to Patreon because I wanted to make the whole video. I'm not going to put the whole thing on YouTube. This will stay on YouTube, and maybe some other points to it, but the full process from start to finish for me drafting out the way the Substack looks to the way the different features I decided to use and the different tags, things like that, all that's going to Patreon. So you can see it behind the scenes, if you will. Some of that I originally posted there, but some of that some of it I originally posted here, but took it down, put it over there. I might do a member section here at some point, but right now, we're going to keep it with Patreon. So for those who don't know, Substack is frankly, yeah, I meant the right one. I was like, oh wait, and I was going to say that's the thing about it with Substack. You can have multiple. Let me bring this up now. You can have multiple publications with Substack. People do not know this. It is not something that is necessarily shared a lot, talked about a lot. But it's very important to understand because it's not like you're stuck with one voice. It's not like you're stuck with one way to say things or one way to present things. Or, I mean, to be fair, if your brand is like, say, you talk about graphic design, and then another aspect you talk about maybe video editing, just to give you not, they're not so far away completely because there's both, forms of working with computer graphics and things like that. But you may be speaking to a different audience. But even more so, let's say one audience is, your publication is all about poetry, you know, and then you want to have another publication that has nothing to do with poetry, has nothing to do with fiction writing. You can do that as well on Substack. That's the cool part about it. It brings some of the elements that we've seen with things like Medium, be one of those that you can have multiple publications. Medium, you don't have to have a publication. You can just have basically your blog. From within the platform. And then if you want to create your own publication or be a part of a publication, with Substack, you actually have the opportunity to do a little bit more. As I have mentioned before in other posts about Substack, one of the things I like about it is the fact that it is truly kind of the best of all three of worlds, or it's getting there to that point. It's at least getting to that point. So it has the element of some elements of social media, definitely email marketing, with your newsletter and whatnot, and then blogging all under one roof. And for those who don't know, so Medium, the platform, and in fact, I'll pull up Medium too, just wait, we can just all be on the same page because I don't want to hate to mention things that people are like, I kind of know what you're talking about, but I really don't. That's the worst way to train and to teach anybody. And for those who don't know anything about Substack and Medium, this is kind of a crash course. This is really for the people who've already maybe started a Substack, or at least you signed up for Substack. You don't know where to start. This isn't a training. This is you. You're literally going to follow me as I build out or rebuild, redesign, which I'll get to a second, redesign my Substack. But to kind of give you a little background, as I always love to do, because so much information up here, but it all connects to how we've gotten to improvements in platforms, which is if you're a product designer, If you are an entrepreneur trying to define or trying to identify an opportunity in a marketplace, this is definitely for you. So, number one, Medium. And let's see, we got Medium here. Let me pull it up for you guys. Yeah, cool. Medium was actually, or well, first off, Medium is a basically a blog, right? It's not a microblog. It's a blog. Microblog would be something like an X, which used to be Twitter or whatnot. But Medium is a blog. You can create a blog, which is freaking awesome. Very straightforward. So it's like old school Tumblr blogger on, for lack of a better term, pumped up. It's on that super soldier. It's on that super soldier system. It ain't got that kryptonite. It's on a super soldier. Oh, super soldier. Yeah. Anywho, we do this all day, baby. Um, so Medium was it's kind of taking that blogging to the next level to where you don't need to have your own full website, even though you can connect a domain to it, which is awesome. But you need to do that. You can have straightforward, and I'll show you exactly right here my stories, kind of taking you behind the curtain a little bit, if you will. Let me show you how the profile will look from that end. Okay. So you can have your stories here and everything. But the cool part about it is that it's not just you writing your own stories on your own blog. If you want, you could actually potentially, depends on editors and how how they set it up. You could potentially write for other publications where, let's say, once again, you want to write poetry, you can find a publication where your poetry can go. You can find a publication where you could talk about business, publications that have a specific niche. Just like think of a publication like any other thing. I mean, like any other kind of publication, like a magazine, right? So if you have Vanity Fair, GQ, and then Sports Illustrated, right? Or maybe pop music. You're focusing on music like Billboard or something like that. That's the same thing how it works with the publications over here. Thing about it is that although you have publications, you can produce your own stories. It really isn't easy to not only to connect with other creators, other writers. It's not really easy to connect with your audience, and that's why I said Substack kind of became or has become kind of that perfect combination. So it's taking an element of Twitter or now X. It's taking elements of Medium, Tumblr, all those cool stuff. Your boy working hard as usual. Up since what 5 a.m. Not working since 5 a.m. Had to say prayer first, but not working since 5 a.m. But definitely working a lot. Since 7:30 at least. So keeping that in mind, it's like it's taking what works, what doesn't work on those platforms. And I touched on this before when I actually had a video about Medium, and I might do a step by step through Medium in general. Um, the cool thing about Medium is that one of the co-founders of Twitter actually created Medium because Twitter was designed to be a microblog. But as we all know, all the noise and all the stuff that got on there, and it kind of ruined the platform for you to see if you ask me. And it's just, ugh, I wouldn't, I, I haven't posted on X or Twitter since quite some time ago. I still have accounts there, but ew, so sorry. Um, hey man, I'm human, y'all. I'm human. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? We in this work. We getting this work in. We real people out here. You know what I'm saying? I know I went to a whole other place here. Point is that Substack blends those worlds, makes it easier. It has a connectivity in that social media element in the notes aspect and even the chat, but it really makes it to where you can have almost it's almost in that level of your own website, right? Of how you can archive different content. You can post a lot of different content. There are some limitations which I will bring up, but let's get into it. So today, what I'm going over, the reason why I gave you that background is I'm putting more effort and energy into Substack. A lot more people are. I've been on Substack for probably about 9 months now, and frankly, even with the new stuff they rolled out, like you get some traditionalists, some old school people. They not messing with it. They not vibing with it. And you know what? More power to them. That's up to them. I personally like. I will say there's one feature that they rolled out. I'll bring that up right in a second. I'm gonna go over the features in a minute, but there's one feature they rolled out which I wish they rolled out like to everyone. In a minute, I'll go over that when I go break down the features. But for the most part, it's a great alternative. Real talk, it's a great alternative to Medium. It's a great alternative to, as much as I love, and it's still my favorite email marketing tool, Mailchimp. It's an alternative to a separate email marketing tool. It's an alternative to a lot of those, especially if you don't want a lot of different tools. You want one sweet spot. Medium, you don't have that email marketing element. That is a major miss. Even for basic blogging, that's a major miss, right? That's why I think so many people immediately jumped over. Of course, there was other aspects why they, and I'm not going to get into that, why they jumped over, but that was one of the media aspects where a lot of people left Medium to start a Substack. Funny thing is, a lot of them came right back. Now they have both. So, but you know how people freak out when things go, challenges come up. Um, that's why I don't go with the crowds. I don't follow the herds. I'm not that. I'm not going to ever be that. I'm never going to be a trend follower or anything like that. Um, but it also gave you an alternative to not only social media, not only email marketing or overall blogging, but to having a I'm sorry, having a single, I was say pure, but having a single content outlet to connect with your audience. The only thing is, the audience isn't there as much yet. That's the problem. That's the only problem. They have SEO components, so it's really easy to discover from search engines, which I personally, of course, love being a SEO myself. And there's so many aspects to where you can monetize it. Which let's break down features now. Okay, so and what we're gonna go over step by step today. So I have been on here for 9 months. Yeah, roughly 9 months. I would suggest you, if you're just starting out, at least at least be on the platform for about a at least be on the platform for 3 months before you say, okay, I gotta redesign everything. There are some authors and creators on here you can and I go over the different like I said, features. They change their layout very often. That's fine. It's one of their primary platforms or it's their only platform. That's fine. You don't have to do that because I've seen some very successful people who leave the play. They leave the layout the way it is, and it works perfectly fine. That's up to you if you want to change it often. The thing is, I say get on the platform and post consistently for 3 months to see what works, what doesn't work for you and your vibe. You might change your pricing. I've seen people go back and forth between monetize, demonetize all the time um, with certain content. Or they might monetize their archive. They might monetize their chat. They might and there are more features and more changes and more element or more elements and updates coming in regularly now with Substack because it's growing, and you can tell they're going to get some good funding, and they probably are very profitable, or will be very profitable because they have an element where they do, get some type of money out of it, and that's what usually allows it. It makes it easier to update and improve a platform very easily. With that being said, be consistent with it, track and see what works, but also your vibe and how you feel because that's what happens when people like, oh, I just want to care about. They focus more on the aesthetics, or they want to care more about the look of things as opposed to is it working. That way, you identify what works, what doesn't work, because the homepage has a couple different layouts that you could try and play around with, and then the branding overall you can really play around with. Okay, so I would say go with the default, or at least the one that immediately attracts your attention. Your boy's working hard. And then from there, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then change your layout. So right now, going to the homepage, and we're going to go over features now too. This style is the newspaper style. Now, the funny thing is when I first saw this, and it's actually why I stuck with it. This reminded me so much like my very first Tumblr blog. My very first Tumblr blog looked, not exactly, but it was very close to this exact same layout. Not to say it's a common layout that you would see, it's just that it has a newspaper feel. And I wanted to have that press, feel. I'm not a journalist or anything like that. I wanted to have that feel because that's how that's kind of vibe I had, and the color scheme and everything. So it's so crazy when I saw this. But over time. With more content produced, as you can see a couple articles recently here, some newsletters, and I'll go over and break it down how it's all set up. I was like, it's time for a change. And that's why we're doing this video. Doing that on top of, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of give a walkthrough for anyone who is already on Substack and still looking for like what works, what doesn't work, how can I make it work for myself. But then also, if you're thinking about Substack, going over really not an overview. This is more of a deep dive. This is definitely a deep dive um, of the features that are there, what can work, maybe what wouldn't work. So from top to bottom, we have our top menu, just like any other website, right? You have your home, your notes, chat, archive, leaderboard, about. This can be what you want it to be. Okay. You don't have to have archive here. You don't have to have chat here, notes here. Make it the menu options that you want. It's not you guys, it is me. It is definitely me. Um, let's see. I built 2 pages today to another website and drafted 2 pitch decks. Not to mention, I did an audit of a website and have another audit coming up. I do the live audits. I'm gonna need my go-go juice, y'all. This is my go-go juice. 1 to 2 a week at the most. If you want to know why I say that, I'll tell you in a minute. So yeah, your boy's been working hard, but I might do my audits and record my audits again because I used to do that when I first started Patreon, and I took the whole Patreon down. Just like I did with my old podcast. I took my whole podcast down, and now I have the Ambition Show, which I love. Ambition Show, new episodes every Thursday. Yeah. um, but that menu does not have to be the way it is for you. The way it is for me right now, it doesn't have to be the same way. Okay. So with this is the newspaper layout. Now, another style, and they call it the header style, even though it's a little more than a header, which I found very interesting. Some like I said, this still some areas of major improvement. Don't get me wrong. There's magazine style. Now, if you're wondering, well, what changed? Look at newspaper. Newspaper has this very cool runner. Now, they have locks on it because the way my Substack is set up, that anything past a certain date, in other words, in the past, you can only access if you pay. Have no problem mentioning that. I have no problem mentioning setup. The whole point is this is a strategy and what works for you. Thing is that I wrote a lot. I'm going to be bringing over a lot more stuff that I had on another site and I had another blog, mostly on my Substack. And for the people who follow, for the people who really want to be involved and be a part of the community that I'm trying to build here, you want to give them some incentives for that. So that makes it more, hey, I want to put more investment into this so it can be bigger, so it can grow and it can actually produce more for others. Because we're also going to have it where we have the digital products that if you're a Patreon member, if you are a paying Patreon member, you get those digital products at a discount rate or for free, right? The same products we would build and design for a client, you would get either for free or the discount as a paying Patreon member. Here we want to bring them over at some point. We'll see about that. We'll see what happens. But the idea is with the newspaper layout is that you get to show off something like that. Now, this doesn't have to be monetized. This doesn't have to be. This is the way I just have it. But I have my most popular, and because they're in past certain date, they're monetized. Now, with the magazine layout, you notice that all goes away. It goes down here. So it doesn't show as much prominence, call to action. Anything you want someone, of course, to take action on, you want it at the top. Because as we all know, people don't scroll down to the bottom. Even though I am going to build out this page a little longer, and that's one of the major reasons I want to redesign it. I put more content there, and I'm like, man, most of it's hidden because the way I originally set it up. I set it up with, I think I had like maybe three articles up here, and I wasn't going to use it originally. Originally, I was just going to use this for the newsletter, right? And then I was like, well, let me put some articles as well. And that's why the newsletter was a little more, not a little more, it was sporadic at first. Because I wasn't planning on having 2 newsletters because I had a whole separate newsletter on my favorite platform. MailChimp is still my favorite platform for a newsletter, but I like the way Substack combines the newsletter aspect, the blogging piece, and the social. So that's why I decided to use this strictly for that newsletter. We do a more condensed version over on LinkedIn and the more lengthy version on Substack. But I'll go over one thing about that, which is pretty interesting in a second. Now, the featured media, I would say if you're heavy in the video or you have some really um, vibrant, eye-catching, popping, imagery, this is the one to use. And there is a Substack author on here who I believe all he posts is like maps and infographics. He uses this very well, and that makes sense. It's a map, it's an infographic. It's very visual. It's in your face. Perfect for that. Finally, there's highlight. Ooh, let me go right here. Oh my god. Uh, I will be honest with you guys about this one. Well, honest about this whole thing, but when I say that, that usually means I'm trying not to be bogus to somebody, but I'm giving you my honest, granny goodness for my comic book people. You know what I'm talking about, granny goodness, right? Comic folk. I'm trying not to dig at somebody, but it's going to be a dig. This is used a lot. That's I'm being contrarian with this one, but that's why I can't get with this one. It's just being used way too much. So that's the only reason why I don't want to use highlight. Even though I like highlight, I do. I must admit I like highlight, but it's all over the place. So magazine, cool. I like to keep a newsletter, but newspaper, but I'm gonna go with magazine. I'm gonna go with magazine just because that highlight is fire, and that's why it's used a lot because it is really cool. Here's why it's really cool, right? You get your featured article here. You get your others where you want to highlight, but it's not like this long list that you have in newspaper. And I think that's why it works. Now, notice what I showed here. Show top posts. No. Yes or no? Yes. I'm showing my top posts. Very same thing like I had with the other with newspaper, where it was kind of that far right column, right? But I could not show those. Would not do that. We always want to show what the people are looking for. Now, here in the subscribe section, this is really cool for those who don't know. So Substack, if you have like paid and you have founding members or annual members, what you can do is you can show off the different messaging to them. Okay, so if I have a message for non-subscribers, right? So if somebody comes to this page, they haven't subscribed yet, here, they can subscribe. It's a good message for them. If I have a message for the free subscribers, I'm sorry, if I have a group of free subscribers, here's the message they will see. If I have a network or a group of paid subscribers, here's what they see. And if I want to have a specific message for the founding members, now the founding members are the people who pay kind of like it doesn't have to be seen that way, but it can. You look at it like an annual fee, like they pay it and it helps you keep it going for the year. It's kind of like combining the monthly. You can do it this way. You don't have to, but it's combining that monthly fee or that monthly subscription, a premium subscription if you're charging for that, and you're doing it for 12 months. Now it adds up to the 12-month fee. You can give them a little discount because they're paying it all in one lump sum. It's a nice little thing to do, but you definitely should have some type of um, higher tier if you are, especially if you're going to monetize everything, right? Because there's some people who do, they monetize everything. That's the cool part about Substack. We're going to really break that down more into as I keep going through these features, but it's some really great opportunities to truly monetize every single piece and aspect of the page. So for one, I could add a blog, I could add a blog. Now, for those who may be familiar with things like, Elementor, maybe even Shopify. These elements of blocks. Like that's the way the website is broken down. It's into blocks, right? I think even Wix started to utilize that terminology. And you can add these blocks into different areas. So let's say I want to have another list right below it, right? I like the list, but you can do it a couple of different ways. It doesn't have to be, it could be three posts, your top three posts that you want to show. This is critical, right? And this is what people may mess up. There's tags and there's sections. Now, tags are important, extremely important. Think of them, you can look at them like anything else, like a hashtag, right? Hashtags do nothing on Substack, at least not as of today. As they say in the report, as of the time of this recording, tags, not hashtags, but tags. So it's very similar, very similar. If you're a blogger, if you ever have experience blogging, you know what this means. You can put tags in where people can easily find the categorize the group content. Categorize, not necessarily the category, because category could be something else as well. But tags work to categorize that content. So what we could do here in this list is we can actually categorize, okay, I want articles about Substack for entrepreneurs. These are the tags I create. I input these tags on the back end. The great part about Substack so far, when I say you can have, as you can see, these are quite a few tags. If you're looking at my tags, you're taking my tags. Hey, it's all good, man. We go compete, whatever it is what it is. You believe me, you will never write about half the stories I write about because we're different people. So if you want to get an idea of tags, you can have it something very general, high level, Google, because I write about Google a lot. Freelancer, because I have freelancer stories. Or you can get very in depth, right? Content marketing news, content marketing for small businesses. It's always good to have those same, to have that general high level primary. What I would suggest is that you have, if you don't have a content workbook, we're actually building a content workbook. If you join that Patreon, you get that thing for free. Um, but you can have it as a one specific page or one specific sheet where you have columns. I would always suggest you have that primary, secondary, and either trending or popular, however you want to put it, tags. Have it broken out like that. This way, when you get to a point like this where you're actually adding a section where it's only going to post, or I'm sorry, it's only going to include articles and posts from that tag, you can focus on the primary, right? And that way nothing ever overlaps, because all the articles that have the primary will have the same. If they have the same primary, right? They can have the same primary, the same secondary, and the same popular or trending, right? You can have 5 articles that have the exact same, but you really won't be mixing up too much when you get to this page. You will see, hey, the primary was Substack for entrepreneurs. So those are the articles that show up. You won't see the same article in 5 different places. Like, you see how I have it here? This is why I wouldn't put this here, because I know for a fact it's already there. Get my point? That way, the people who are coming to this page, they will see unique content in different sections, and you can have them focus on what that target goal is. So let's say the goal is here. I want you to know what was the first article I wrote. Boom. Or it's my introduction article, which I must admit I did not write, which I always should have written. I say always should have written because I, I always mean to do that whenever I get on a new platform, have some type of introduction, because it's a good way to ensure that people know who you are and what you're about. Your content will show that over time, but it's like if you go to your LinkedIn, or if you go to your Instagram or something like that, you should have a good presentation, like, this is who I is, this is who I be. And that's the whole point here. But that's what this is focusing on. Like, hey, this is when I really got it cracking. I'm really got started. These are the articles that should be the most recent. These should be the most popular. See, my point is breaking it down what I want them to see. And then whatever that tag is, boom, shakalaka. And that's my point. That's why if you have those tags, and I just put this one up here for reference. It's not the one I was going to land on. But if you have those tags sectioned out and organized, primary, secondary, right? And trending, popular, in that spreadsheet, you'll know, okay, article is going to fit this tag, or article is going to fit these tags. And just to call this out, the funny thing about Substack, once again, like I said, there's some things that they got to work on. I don't think they're going to change this one ever. Not nowhere near anytime soon, but definitely, I don't even think it's going to ever change. So the way Substack has it is like a full article or even your newsletter if you're sending it to people because you can email whatever you write to people. Um, they call it a post, which really threw me off, and I thought it was definitely I'm not sure say I thought I was the only one. Definitely, I was not the only one because I saw many people mentioning it months later as more and more people join Substack. They're like, "Hey, do you notice that Substack calls post basically that long form?" So if we went into one of these, actually, oh, because I'm in the editor, you can't see it, but these are posts. Now, when we think of posts normally from social media, we think like a Facebook post, an Instagram post. It's just it might have long form content, but it typically isn't. It's maybe a couple sentences, your hashtags, and a piece of content. Whatever the video, the GIF, the meme, or whatever you're posting. Here, it takes on literally like an article, which throws a lot of people off. Same thing can be said, though, or I should say, another thing can be said. How it throws people off are notes. Notes are treated. So think of social media post on Substack. It's a note. I know, very confusing, and I'm not sure if they wanted to do that to kind of separate themselves from social media. So I understand it to an extent, but then again, it's just you never want to confuse your user. So that just keep that in mind. When I say post, I'm talking about these types of posts, not like a social media post, right? That would be more like a note. So when I say note, think of a social media post. If you're not used to Substack, so these tags, which are for post, you really want to make sure that what are those main things I talk about? What are those main things I deliver value on? So content marketing for small businesses. The majority of my newsletters will fall into that. Now I can change it to newsletter. I could change the tag to newsletter, so that's way only that. So that is the only thing that shows up there. Excuse me. And we can isolate it to where we wanted people to see the introduction. We wanted people to see. Excuse me. Let me show you. Want to see people see the introduction. Want to show people the most recent, and want to show people the most popular. And then here, want to show just the newsletter. See, that's the way you want to structure it. You want to structure it to where I have a goal, I have a focus in mind for every component of this experience because that's what you're creating. You're creating an experience for people. I think that's the biggest miss that people, first time creators or people who are just maybe not as confident in their creation, they forget it's not about being perfect. It's about just creating a real, genuine, authentic, unique experience for people. Create it. That's what you want. So if we go here, we say we want right column, add a module. You see what it says? Links. These are the different pieces of content I can have. So I can have off to the far right in this column, I can have my contributors, which is a fantastic aspect of Substack. Remember, I brought that up about Medium. Like, it's not a good way for people to connect on Medium. It's kind of hard for creators to connect there. Substack eliminated that, or I should say, Substack improved upon that and eliminated that stress immediately. So different things. There's subscribe, recommendations, and then there's specific links where you can link out to contributors, your newsletters, Remember, I said you can have multiple publications, podcasts, or top posts. Subscribe would look like this. Subscribe, but we already have this. I don't want that. I hate that redundancy. I'm not going to do that. Then there's recommendations. Recommendations on Substack. Y'all, let me tell you something right now. Recommendations on Substack was keyword was a game changer. Basically, it's virtual word of mouth. And it's the reason why a lot of people, this is why you never want to look at somebody else's numbers. You never want, I don't compete with people. I tell you this all the time. I tell people this all the time. I don't compete with other creators. I don't compete with nobody. Right. The reason why is because there's different, first off, we come at things differently. We're different elements to different people, different ways we got in the game, different areas of experience, all those things. It's different. You can't compete. I have contemporaries. And One of the reasons why I bring that up now, especially with this, is if you look at people's numbers, especially those who've been on Substack for at least, I would say at least 18 months to 2 full years, it's unless they're not doing anything with it, it's hard not to notice that they have a significant amount of followers. One of the ways or should I say, one of the ways that one of the tools that was there to help them was recommendations. To to be 100% honest with you about, my own account, if you will, I want to say that of the publications I'm following or the writers I'm following on Substack, 80% are because of recommendations. And basically what a recommendation was is that at once someone subscribes to your Substack, immediately you see a list of other authors that they are recommending. And here's the funny part, you're automatically, at least from what I've always seen, I haven't seen it any other way. I blend that. You're immediately, or I should say, the box is immediately checked and selected for you to start following them or subscribe to them. Free subscriptions, mind you. They're not forcing you to paid subscriptions. Ooh, ear. They're not forcing you to paid subscriptions. But with that said, pretty much every author worth their salt, author, graphic design, or whatever their profession is, but they're an author because they're hmm, hmm, so sorry, writing on Substack, publisher at least, right? Notice that they had to, and I noticed over the last maybe 3 or 4 months. No, I would say last 5 months actually, because that Substack has really blown up and become more well known. Authors are starting to really pull back on their recommendations. Almost everybody I would find on Substack, 9 recommendations, 10 recommendations, 7 recommendations, 8 recommendations. Now you might find maybe one or two. There's a couple authors that literally only 1 or 2 recommendations, right? Now, I know this is going to sound funny as a connection I'm about to make, but there was another, and for those, you'll be able to pick on what I'm dropping right here. There was another fan-centric, fan-focused website where creators recommending others got to the point where it became very lucrative. Because if I have a following of 20, 50, maybe even 150,000 people, and I recommend you, you immediately got in front of 150,000 people by just me recommending you. Okay. And with that said, I'm noticing a lot. It feels that way. It's becoming a little bit more on Substack where people are noticing, like, hey, if I recommend somebody, I get them in front of a vibrant, already built community, right? Why not monetize that for myself? Now, I'm not saying that anybody that I particularly follow does this. I'm not saying I know specifically. I'm noticing though that the recommendations are fewer and far between. And also that's for good reason because it also does gatekeep to the extent that you only share people that you genuinely like and genuinely know your audience would like. Because there's a lot of publishers and authors that I follow on Substack that I do not recommend because it's not tailored to the target audience I'm speaking to, right? And I wouldn't want to send them off on a path, because they also won't like that experience. 'Cause they're like, dude, this has nothing to do with me. Like this isn't what I enjoy at all. So, but these are authors and these are content creators that I love and I follow, and I'm happily, whether I'm paid, unpaid, or I'm just jumping in chats, or I'm dropping them a tip or something like that, buy them a coffee or something like that. You know, so the recommendation column is that could be a very very powerful column. I'm not going to have it now, okay, but it's something to keep in mind. This is actually what I'm looking forward to at some point. Right now, I'm the only author of my newsletter of my work on Substack. But what I plan to do is I plan to open it up, and I have no problem saying that because I want to work with other authors. I want to work with other writers, specifically those who want to talk about, content marketing, content creation, um, and just running a business as a creator. That's a really, especially if you're coming from past corporate work or so-called blue collar work, because sometimes we go into those other fields because we're not confident in our creativity. I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to be a part of you guys. I would love to be a part of, or part of what you're building. So that's what I want to open up to. This is what I want to have. The goal is to have contributors there where it will list actually other writers who are writing on my newsletter, or posts that we've collaborated on and we've shared from this publication. Can't do that with Medium. You can't say, "Hey, these are my collaborators." You can do it very manually, but it's not a quick button like that, which is awesome. Now, as podcasts, you can connect your podcast to Substack, which is a freaking phenomenal and smart move. If you don't have your own podcast website, and if you don't want to go outside, if you want to have Substack as your hub, you can do that. That's why it's such a powerful tool. It is native. So I use this term. Kind of like native ads, but I use this term like when it comes to platforms. It's like Shopify. Shopify was designed for e-commerce. Yes, you can have e-commerce on. You can have an e-commerce website that's built on WordPress, of course, Squarespace, Wix, Webflow, quite a few platforms. But Shopify specifically was designed to be e-commerce. It's native. That's what it does. That's its bread and butter. The cool part about what Substack is doing here, from the jump, they're making it email marketing, social media elements, blogging, of course, and all other forms of content, not like shorts, right? Because shorts are just videos. Whether it's a long video or short video, it's still video. You can make a video on Substack. You can make a podcast on Substack. You can connect your podcast to Substack. That way, it actually becomes your podcast website. Great. Once again, if you have a different publication, maybe you want the publication just to be for that podcast. It gives you those options, but that's native. It's built for that. It's designed for that. It has that in mind already. It wasn't like, oh, let's add this on later on, and hopefully it works and it kind of gels with the other features. No, it's not about that. That's one thing I like about it. I haven't connected my podcast to it because this is not the Ambition podcast, the Ambition Show podcast. This is the Ambitious newsletter. So, I don't want to murk the waters. You know what I mean? But that's something to keep in mind if you are, if you have a podcast, and you're like, what, I don't have a website for, but I wouldn't mind doing this. I gotta get a new map. I know that was so random. I just didn't say. I was like, I gotta get a new map. It was so random. And then you have top posts, which once again, you notice that list that it had like before, the same thing. So I want to do that. Okay, so my goal in the future is to make this right column for contributors. Hopefully, we get that going. I want to have that going by next year. We can have a left column where we have we have not necessarily the same thing. We have two great calls to actions, if you will. We already have subscriptions. So let's do there. I just want to see how it would look. And this is how it would look, right? We have our collaborators here. We would have our recommendations there. That's the goal for next year. Like, who do I want to recommend? Who do I want to have as a collaborator? We want to have it built out like that. Okay. And we're going to have a number of 3 posts. See, we want to have it tight, compact, but to where it's really good for the user, right? And let's change the tag here. We just do recent post. Recent post would be good to have here, like I said before. But actually, I'm gonna share it down here and see how that works. Just see how that works. Okay, so we're gonna save that. All right, now let's go to branding. Now with branding, this is where you get to put in your color scheme and everything. I'm gonna call this out now, though. Beehive is so much more customizable. For those who don't know, Beehive is it's I would say it's kind of that direct competitor to Substack. I don't see the social element as much as I see with Substack. And Beehive is not 100% free, but you can make really good money on Beehive because Beehive leverages your email marketing and your blogging, if you will, to bring in advertisers, and it has an advertising network. Fantastic. I can't remember for sure. Let me see who. Someone's advertising on Beehive, and it's not like a small company. I mean, it's a big name. It's They have like a huge ad network, and it's crazy how they have blown up so big. So sorry, so fast, and they've blown up. So the thing about Beehive in comparison to Substack, there is a lot more customizable when it comes to the actual site itself. And I'm to be fair with you, I think it's actually easier to monetize. But you really gotta write, man. You really gotta enjoy writing. You really gotta love writing. You gotta be a part of writing. You gotta, I'm not saying you don't have to do that on Substack or Medium, just to say that it doesn't have as many features and elements as Substack. Excuse me. So I don't see it as, to be fair with you, I would see Substack as a replacement for all those other features. A separate, even a separate podcast to an extent. We'll see how far it goes, but definitely to social media platforms, to email marketing platforms, and for other blogs, third party blogs, right? The problem is that, like I said, and I mean, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. But the problem is that it doesn't have that user base just yet. It doesn't have the consumers who are just there for this, who are just there to consume. Like, you know, Instagram, not even though it looks like that every 5 minutes. Everybody wants to be a content creator. Not really. A lot of people just want to have an Instagram account because they want to follow people that they want to follow. They want to have connected with their friends. They want to see what's going on in their towns. They don't necessarily want to be a content creator. Substack seems to be leaning more towards where everybody on Substack wants to be a content creator, or everybody on Substack is from a content marketing, content creation background. So they see it as another outlet. And you see why it's a lot more niche. It's very tight and small, but they're gonna well, I can't say that. But but it's but they're definitely, building on that. And that is why Substack is really, in my opinion, better than Beehive from the feature standpoint. The only aspect is a drawback is the branding. Because Beehive, you have your own website basically, dude. It's like customizing your own Mailchimp, which you gotta love. Or Constant Contact. If you use Constant Contact, Mad Mimi, Active Campaign. I can never say what's the one. And it's so crazy because I work a lot on Shopify sites. I can never say this name right. Clavio. I can never say that one right. But they're blowing up, and it's a great platform. But getting back to our branding, so you can do a few customization changes here. You can change the background color, you know. Although actually it looks pretty good. At first, I was kind of like green. I mean, I'm not knocking green, but it actually looks really, really cool. Actually, if this is my color scheme, so if you have a brand kit, which you should have a brand kit, I did a brand kit video. I'm probably making a new brand kit tutorial video because some people, they want to talk about some of the new features in Canva. If you have a brand kit in Canva, just just go to that page. Just go to your brand kit in Canva, pull up the color codes, and pop them in here. The accent color, let's see. That's what's going to change those buttons, right? Now, I will say that, of course, as it says here, you definitely want to pick something lighter, right? If you have a dark background, lighter buttons, vice versa. If you have a light background, dark buttons. So just keep that in mind. But it's all based upon, of course, the brand kit that you have. Same thing. So sorry. So. You have some limited features here. Like I said, it's not Beehive. It's not all the features you want. Not all the features you could go with, but it's some cool basic stuff. So let's just see here. Some basics. Let's stick there. Keep that the way it is. take it from our brand kit on Canva, and we'll find the color scheme and the for the buttons and everything there. And now I'm going to show you guys. This is the cool part about before you publish anything. You can see, okay, so this is the web page. Now, when someone comes to the Substack, not subscribed, never been here before, they'll see this. And this is how a post would look. It gives you a great preview of all, well, not all, but three of the key areas to get the most out of your Substack. Number one, your web page. Number two, the subscription page where maybe they're sharing it with a friend and the friend is not subscribed. Hey, try to subscribe. Or you sent them the link and they're not subscribed and they want them to subscribe. And then, of course, a post, which is actually, like I said before, a full article. This is the one I did about Cardi B. And the, frankly, jaw-dropping masterclass of authenticity and marketing and how it really should be, as she did with her new album drop. For those who don't know, it's an awesome album. Um, to be honest with you, I don't listen to a lot of albums from start to finish, like back to back, like just in one sitting. I listen to a couple tracks, come back to it, listen to another track, come back to it. I've listened to the album 3 times in a row, just literally, no, 3 times in a row, just like, that was a great album. Run it back. That's a great album. Run it back. Yes. So check it out. But that's a cool part because it's letting you see these three core areas. Now, I will say, there's other areas like the chat and notes, which really aren't customizable. I mean, it's just a chat, it's just notes to post. So you really don't have to go over those, but you do want to make sure these are good. Now, because these are three core pillars, if you will, to your publication. But one area I wish they did have here, like they have welcome page, the welcome email. Now, when someone subscribes to your Substack, there is a great opportunity to build on that. And I have seen some authors do some fantastic work with the welcome email. It's an email that you get to customize, you get to create, that is sent to them or sent to the subscriber as soon as they, after they subscribe for the first time. And you can type in whatever you want, but so many creators who are very successful on Substack have made that welcome email the presentation of the experience, but also, hey, I appreciate you in general, right? And it's an opportunity to really build on a relationship. So I'm still working on my welcome email. I wanted to finish up this customization here first. I'm still working on my welcome email, but I'm gonna take a stab at that because I really want to get that down pat. Um, and also, I'm not probably won't do that here on the YouTube. I'll probably stick to the Patreon because, like I said, I have that collective video put together. Is going to take this one because this is the final piece. For those who don't know, once again, if you're just enjoying, so on the Patreon, I have the behind the scenes of me building out the Substack all the way from like anything else. I have to sketch first. I have to sketch it. If I don't sketch it, I could spend hours in front of a computer doing nothing. When it comes to a web page, an email, anything, I have to sketch it or I have to come up with a draft. I don't use Figma. I really want to start using Figma. I haven't used it a lot, but I use like whiteboard tools. I've used Notion to do things like that. I typically just sometimes just go into the actual platform and play around and kind of draft things out. But in this case, I sketched it out first and then I kind of mapped out the sequencing for things. That's why I said the next step is the welcome email. And just, and I have video record all that, and that's all on the Patreon. So it's going to be one video. This is the last one. It'll be one process video, so you'll see it all from the beginning, from sketching to publication, and how it looks. And the actual first publication I'm going to present, which will be going up on Monday. Yes, because this weekend is open house. We got a lot going on in Chicago this weekend. It's open house, this architecture thing I'll tell you guys about. Absolutely love it. Looking forward to it. But with all that being said, so this is the way we're going to have the layout. This is the button we're going to have here. I didn't want to keep it orange because orange is actually the branding color of Substack, and it looks like you haven't done anything. Don't get me wrong. People ain't going to trip on it. It's just that I know it, and I don't care for that. And then we're going to work on the tags. So, with that, the first article for this new the new layout will be published on Monday. As I mentioned, there's a lot going on in Chicago. So this weekend is Chicago Open House. And Chicago Open House is a fantastic event by the architecture. I think it's you know what, I can never remember their full name. I think it's the Chicago Architecture Society or Chicago Architecture Group. I could be wrong. Center, Chicago Architecture Center. And the cool part about this is, I'm gonna actually pull this one over for you guys so you can see it because this is cool. And this is one of the great aspects of Chicago, right? Like we got so much going on all the time. And I guarantee you have stuff like this in your city too. You may not know about it. But this is why I like to tell people everything I love about Chicago. Okay. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna actually have um and they've done this. I think this might be like 15 years. Wow. Um I was gonna say 10 years, but it's 15 years. And I've only gone no, this will be my fifth time going. But this is gonna be only the third time actually hitting different neighborhoods because I usually go to one neighborhood because it's so many buildings. So buildings that aren't normally readily available in some cases, like you can't just go in because it may be a national landmark. You can only take pictures outside. The Federal Reserve here in Chicago is actually one of those buildings. They open it up where you can actually take a tour of the building. Private clubs, mansions, like Frank Lloyd Wright's old house, Disney's house, Walt Disney's house, the house that he grew up in, actually. Um, Most people don't know Walt Disney's actually from Chicago. Chicago has some major famous people, but the cool part about it is they have all the neighborhoods. And Chicago is a city of neighborhoods and communities, right? For those who don't know, it's all about the neighborhoods. And every neighborhood is like its own little city. Believe you me. That's why we have an alderman. I mean, we have aldermen for different wards and different neighborhoods. You can have multiple neighborhoods in one ward, but it is like its own little city. So, um, I usually, because downtown always has a lot. Downtown has like a ton of locations. You can't see them in one day, and really get a vibe for it. So I try to go to a neighborhood I've never like really toured and looked at because we have what 37 neighborhoods, I want to say, community areas. Um, and then one that like it's one that I know of, but it's not necessarily one that I know a lot about. Like in other words, I know I've been there a while, but maybe didn't know that this was some famous person's home. I do go normally to like the neighborhood I live in, because I'm already here, so it's easy for me to find something. But I've done that before in the past, and it's cool. But this one, I'm focusing on three things. I'm focusing on number one, going to at least two neighborhoods I've never toured for open house specifically, because they have, like I said, national landmarks that sometimes in some cases are never open. So this is the only way you'll ever get inside. Um, Number two, at one point or sorry, not one point. Last year they had a photo contest and photo competition. It looks like they might have one again. Let's check it out here. Let's see. Do we have a photo competition? Let's change it up here. Let's see the photo competition. Do they have photo competition this year? Yes, they do. So they have a photo competition this year. Um, Last year was there for also last year was the first time that makes sense because I was wondering, I was like, I've never seen a photo competition before, but I wasn't sure if it was their first year or not. So anyone can enter, and it's really cool because you can submit your photos, and they don't have to be super professional. They don't have to be, they just, I mean, of course, they have to be clean and crisp, and of course, that's what they're going to show. But they'll show them off. They'll actually present them, and it's really cool. It's a good opportunity because Chicago has a ton of beautiful buildings for photography, sites in general for photography. So this gives you an opportunity to, just if you're a hobbyist, if you're doing it for fun, whatever it may be, but just have a ball. So that's the second thing. I wanted to make sure that I went to places that I've never taken photos before, haven't seen before, great places where I could maybe produce some future content. Oh God, I think that is it. Okay, so I want to call this out. I'm not going to go every neighborhood because we could be here forever. And I know we're mainly here for the Substack, and I'm going to answer a few questions that I got from Cora, and that's about it. Um, you notice how I stopped yawning because I'm not really getting into this. So this school is very famous. Carl Schurz School. I know, oh, wow, 15 people who went to this school. I didn't go to the school, but 15 people went to this high school. But this high school has had some significant people graduate from this high school. So I want you guys to look it up. If you look up Carl Schurz High School in Chicago, Illinois, because I'm not sure if there's a Carl Schurz anywhere else. Very famous high school. Come to find out, did not know this, and I lived in this neighborhood not far from there for years, and I didn't know that. And that's the kind of stuff you find out, right? Like I say, you get a tour of the Federal Reserve. Oh, I'm back in medium. Yeah. The Federal Reserve. Places that normally aren't open. So I'm gonna find like I said, three neighborhoods, and it's a 2-day event, which is awesome. So for sure, I'm gonna hit up. This is actually the neighborhood I grew up in as a kid, Bronzeville. And it's stuff like this, like these places I've been, of course, a bunch of times. But sometimes you've never taken a tour and they have a person to guide you to tell you, or at least just tell you about the place. Like, hey, this is exactly what's going on. It's really awesome to tell you about the history of a place. We got a couple sites canceled. And as you know, there's a war in my city. The president of our country, for those who are maybe international, the president of our country has declared war on my city. So there's potentially some places that might not be open for that. Because it's insanity. Anyway, absolute insanity. Not trying to get political here, not trying to do all that. I can have those conversations, but there's spaces and time for that. But there's great locations that hopefully will be open and undisturbed. This is another community I lived in at one point, and the places that they have here. I mean, from the Haitian American Museum of Chicago. For those who don't know, Chicago, well, the settlement that Chicago is now, the original settlement that Chicago, the land resides on, was established. The settlement, not the city necessarily, the settlement was established um, by a fur and textile tradesman from what is now known as Haiti. A lot of people don't know that. But this neighborhood has the Haitian American Museum. And we have a strong, it's not as big as I thought it would be, but we have a strong Haitian community here in Chicago. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. And it's the kind of stuff that you find out. So I'm gonna find 3 areas. I'm gonna go to 2, because the one thing I've noticed that before, for those, if you are gonna go to this, let me call this out now. One thing I've noticed about um the open house is that even though it's 2 days, that second day, which is the Sunday, because always Saturday and Sunday, the second day, there's a lot of locations that close really early. And it really frustrated. One time, me and my sister went, and we had plans to go to some more places on the second day. And I mean, it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They're like, "Oh yeah, we closed already." It's like, wow, you guys are only open for like 2 or 3 hours. They're like, yeah, because it's Sunday, and it's like, okay. So keep that in mind. Like, if you are going to go, make sure you hit the main spots you want to go to. Like, if it's especially if it's different neighborhoods, I would say like, and this is why I was thinking maybe 2 neighborhoods on Saturday, 1 neighborhood on Sunday, because then it's like hopefully they're close by. But some of these neighborhoods are huge. Like Chicago neighborhoods can be pretty darn freaking big. Um, People just don't understand Chicago's a huge city. So, you want to keep that in mind. But they have a lot of new places. I'm looking at this already. They have a lot of new places, which is really great. So I'm going to hit up 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. And and this is neighborhoods, not actual locations. I'm gonna try to hit every location that they have in that area because they're all free. And you get a tour, and you get a guide. It's really awesome. Great for photographers, great for videographers. If you're a content creator, this is awesome. Open houses, the Shinto. Let me tell you right now, this is the kind of stuff that not only will you see the beauty of Chicago neighborhoods and diversity of Chicago neighborhoods, but you will also see the strength of Chicago, and you'll see the creativity of Chicago. You will see the wonder of Chicago, and you will see the beauty and the from an art from an architectural standpoint, but most importantly, from a how cultures have not necessarily have changed, but how cultures have shaped Chicago. Because there's so many neighborhoods that, for lack of a better term, have changed hands. Like one of the best neighborhoods to showcase this is Humble Park. If you haven't been to Humble Park, if you come to Chicago and you haven't been to Humble Park, you haven't been to Chicago. I'm sorry. It's one of those neighborhoods. It's like Bronzeville. You gotta go. I'm sorry. If you've been to the Loop, you've been, that's not tourist, okay? You haven't seen Chicago. Humble Park, the name itself, like it was a major community for Jewish immigrants, specifically at one point German, okay, Polish as well. It's changed over time. It's significantly a Puerto Rican community right now. It has been for years. A strong, beautiful, vibrant community. But you see all those cultures. That's the cool part about it. You see the elements of each and every culture, right? You see the influence from the bakeries to the restaurants to the events. Perfect example this year, the Colombian Festival, because Chicago has a vibrant, strong Colombian community, was in Humble Park. Now, for years, it actually has been, I cannot remember the exact name of the park, but the park, we have a lot of parks too. The park was much farther, well, not much farther. It was farther northwest, but it wasn't much farther. Let me not exaggerate. It was farther northwest. Point is, it's because the it was needed. The festival got bigger because the community has gotten a lot larger, and Humble Park is a beautiful, big, I mean, just a wonderful size park for a big festival like that. Community festival usually hosts the Puerto Rican festival as well. So to see how some communities have grown so much, and now they're changing. They're going to different parts of the city, and now they have getting more exposure to parts of the city. Absolutely wonderful. But that's just one example. One great and beautiful neighborhood. Avondale, as I just had up here, is another great example of that. And of course, like I said, I grew up in Bronzeville. Then it's Hyde Park. I know a lot of people know Hyde Park because Obama. It was there before Obama. I was in that neighborhood before Obama. And I'll tell you right now, I've always had a problem with that whole aspect because Barack Obama made me late for school one day. Yes, he did. When that man became a senator, before president, when he became a senator, and he moved, or I'm sorry, they moved, I guess, into a new house, or maybe he moved into the neighborhood. I'm not sure. But I remember for sure it was his moving truck. I found out for sure it was his moving truck. Blocked traffic when I was trying to get to school on my way to school because he wanted to move in his building or his house or his mansion, whatever. Made me late for school. The only day I was ever late in high school. Only day. It's Barack Obama's fault. And I still voted for that man twice. Did I get a phone call? No, I'm joking. I just want an apology. Anywho, I like having perfect attendance. Maybe you don't, but I did. That was important to me. Okay. Anywho, so if you get a chance, if you're in Chicago, maybe not this year. Hopefully, some point you'll get to take part in this because this is awesome. If there's an event like this in your city, which I can almost guarantee, especially like cities like New York or Boston, San Francisco, maybe even Miami, where art is specifically architecture is very important to see. The architecture in Miami is beautiful for those who don't know if you've ever been. Um, there's some amazing, beautiful structures and buildings there. Besides the people, uh, yeah, because a lot of people in Miami are works of art too. I ain't gonna lie, they take their time and they do their work, and I ain't mad at them on that one because they do some good work. Okay, um, that's not a hill. Now, your boy, all I can say is to everybody, I've lived. Okay, so check it out if you get a chance. If you are in the city, look it up. It's architecture.org. Dang, man, that's a hell of a URL. I just noticed that. Like from an SEO standpoint, architecture.url, URL.org. Wow, that is man, you guys got a nice domain there. Shoot. Um I know. I totally geeked out from an SEO web design standpoint. Listen, architecture.org, that's the kind of domain everybody dream about having. Talk about money, money, money. Anywho, uh, if you go to architecture.org, open house Chicago, it's got it all. I would say right now, if you could check out Bronzeville, if you can check out Avondale, if you can look at Albany Park, if you can get to those three, amazing. But there's so many neighborhoods. Pullman, Austin, Uptown. Oh my God, Uptown. If you love jazz music, if you love blues. Mm, anywho, so the year of sinners too, man. Oh, dude. Ugh. Anyway, so with that, gonna finish up the Substack with, like I said, the welcome email. That video I'm only gonna put on Patreon, but the entire process, not but with the entire process. I will have the breakdowns on Patreon, but also I have the entire process in one longer video. Chopping out maybe this commentary, if you will, but focusing on the actual design of sketch to draft to what we just created here. We did this upside. I just updated it, right? To the welcome email and then the final actual publication. And with that, it's going to be a little bit more in the way I do my little creative experience videos where I just like vibe out to my music and everything. I'm doing everything. This one I talked through the process, which is a lot different. The other videos is just more, me just kick it off and then boom, we go right into the actual design. So we can work together, if you will. But yeah, that's the cool part about it. It's like, hey, listen, take a stab at it. Focus on getting it done and getting it produced and getting it published, not making it perfect. That is the key. Focus on getting it done, getting it produced, getting it published, not making it perfect. Because if you keep it all up here and you're waiting to make it perfect, it'll never get perfect. It'll never get that way. You need feedback. You need people to see it. Hey, you might have seen what I've done. You're like, dude, that would never work for me. And that's okay. First off, bogus. I invite you, and then you don't like what I make. No, I'm joking. The main thing is you identified, hey, that might work for Aaron, doesn't work for me, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to use what will work for me. I'm going to actually get it done. See, I actually got this done. That's an accomplishment. Now, if it isn't perfect, that's okay. I'm going to get feedback. I'm going to say, hey, we need to fix this. You need to fix that. Or I would prefer this. I would prefer that. Not a problem for me. That's not a problem because that's how you actually improve. Most importantly, that's how you accomplish things. We focus too much on perfection. We're never going to be perfect. You may have a different philosophy. We're never going to be perfect. We can strive for it. We can work towards it. That's great. But to get it done, get it produced, get it published, that means the most. Because you don't want to look back. I don't want to look back one day. But a lot of people, let's be honest, we don't want to look back a year, 5 years, 10 years. Man, I wish I'd even started something. I wish I had actually finished this. You don't want to be in that position, right? I'm never going to have to say that now. I'm done with that, at least, right? Right, the first stage, if you will. Like I said, we're going to do the email, and then finally start producing newsletters, and then who knows? Maybe 2 weeks down the road, maybe a year down the road. I really wouldn't do it a few weeks. I would do more like maybe a month or two, so I can get some feedback. I can ask some people questions. Be like, hey, did you like this? How you like this flow? Like I said, I'm gonna even change some of the tags. I mentioned that. I'm keeping the majority of those tags because that's what I write about the most. But maybe some tags. I change those as well. But anywho, get it done. Get it produced. Just get it published. Get it out there. Don't succumb to paralysis by analysis. Do not do that to yourself. You deserve better. Your fan base deserves better. Your community deserves better. Your life deserves better. Right? Get it done. Get it produced. All right. So with that, I was going to answer some questions from Quora, but you know what? I did say I was going to do that. Let me do it. I'm not gonna, because I know we have quite a few sitting there. Let's see. Actually, no, not that bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. You're like, maybe not. Let's see here. Yeah, let's go to our core questions. Boop. Let me blow that up for y'all because, frankly, I know I've seen my own live video once, and I was like, I don't even know how people are trying to read this. All right, core questions. Here we go. How can small startups compete with big e-commerce brands? How can small startups compete with big e-commerce brands? Okay. So the question from two price tags, once again, is how can small startups compete with big e-commerce brands? So, number one, and I kind of brought this up with competition, right? I brought this up with competition and not having competition, have contemporaries. And I keep that philosophy. I'm not competing with Walmart. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna finish with this, but I'll give you actually have a really good example. Just thought about this. I'm not gonna if I have an e-commerce business, I'm not gonna compete with Walmart. I'm not competing with Amazon. I'm not competing with Costco. I'm not competing with Etsy, even. And Etsy is a bunch of different sellers, right? I'm not competing with um, Rakuten, you know. I'm competing with myself, number one, and what I produced before, making it better and building a better relationship and more valuable relationship with the audience. But here's the main reasons why you're not competing, and I'll go into kind of how can, if you will. The real reason, and here's an example from past client. I just kind of smiled thinking about him because he's a really good dude, but he would do this kind of stuff, right? He would overthink it, and it goes kind of to the paralysis by analysis. Basically, he would overthink it to where it would be really easy to not finish something because you give yourself all these challenges to say, oh well, you can't do this, you can't do that, you need the money to do this. So it's easy to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna have to take a step back, or I'm gonna stop, or I'm gonna. So he kind of has that paralysis, right? Because he can't see. Maybe I should take smaller steps to get more done. No, I'm gonna wait till I can take this big step so I can compete with these guys. And that goes back to this specifically. He wanted to start a kind of like a car rental business, if you will. And he would always bring up Uber. Now I told this man, I'm like, dude, you one dude. How you gonna compete with an Uber? Oh, well, I like the way their technology is, and that's great. I want my app to look like that. That's great. I want my website to be very similar. That's great. But do you think Uber started the way Uber is today? Do you think that's how they looked when they first started? Airbnb, Uber, Amazon, eBay, I don't care who it is. One of the main things, that's why I said get it done, get it produced, and get it published. Kind of taking that MVP, right? Minimal viable product. Getting that mindset, sticking with it, and getting it done. Because when you get it out into the channel, when you get it in front of people, in front of your audience, they can give you feedback. But most importantly, it's produced. It's real. That's why number one, you're not competing with the big e-commerce brands, with the big boys, if you will. You're not competing with them because you are competing from where you're looking at it. This goes to you two price tags. Excuse me. You are competing. You're starting where they were 5, 10, 20, 30. Case, I said Walmart? What are we talking? 50, but 60 years ago? I'm just starting out. So me today is competing with what they have had 30, 40, 50, 60 years to produce. This is like the people who want to make an apparel brand. They're like, I want it to be like Nike. Nike been around for 45 years, bro. You just started tonight. You just started yesterday. You're really? That's the problem a lot of people make. They overthink it. It actually hinders their because it hinders them from taking chances because they're like, oh wait, I have to get Michael Jordan to be wait, okay. Well, maybe not Michael Jordan. He retired. I got to get his equivalent to be wait, really. Nike was already around for some years, even when they approached Jordan. And remember when they first approached Jordan? Jordan coming out of college, he didn't even want him. How are you going to get the next NBA star or the biggest player in the NBA or the next big draft pick? Really? You're not competing on that level. Don't compete. In fact, I'm literally gonna do what the title of this book is, Steal Like an Artist. Austin Kleon, who I actually follow on Substack, which is funny about that, right? I actually bought his book, Steal Like an Artist, before I even knew he was on Substack. But take that kind of advice, take that kind of philosophy, steal like an artist. In other words, take elements. Don't look at them as competition. Look at them as I like to call it, virtual mentors or a digital mentor. Because you virtually, they don't know you, you don't know them personally, but they are kind of mentoring you. What worked for Nike? You know what worked for Nike? I can tell you something right off the bat. I just brought it up with Michael Jordan, right? They didn't want a bunch of different athletes. They wanted one that they believed in, one that they knew they could put their time, effort, energy into. They didn't say, oh no, I want Steph Curry and LeBron James. No, they said, no, 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 no. I just want Giannis. I'm just throwing out names, right? Focusing on one person, putting all that effort and energy into one person, right? And it worked out significantly in everyone's favor. So, looking at it from an e-commerce standpoint, two price tags. Number one, what worked for them to enter the e-commerce market, game, sector, industry? That's what you should first look at. What worked for them? Give you, I'm trying to keep it short, but I'll give you two. I'll give you two examples. And I literally the name just escaped me, but they're a really big fast fashion brand. And let me see. I want to pull this up. I want to make sure I get this right because it's a great question. And I cannot think of Shein. That's what it was. Shein. So Shein is a perfect example of what I'm about to go over as a good way to kind of not compete but to learn from. Shein took their expertise or their founders' expertise in SEO specifically, right, to leverage. Well, how can we make the tools? How can we make online shopping tools platforms work for us? Even though we have our own website, right? We're not going on. We're not selling on Walmart. We're not selling on eBay, things like that. But what can we leverage for us? I'll give you another one. From some years ago. They're still around, but they're nowhere near as big as they used to be. Fashion Nova. Is it Fashion Nova or Fashion Nova? I think it was Fashion Nova. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But they leveraged, okay, How do we stand out? We have a very specific target audience. How do we stand out? You know how we can stand out? We can connect to people they're already connected to. And they were the ones who really got into the influencer marketing before a lot of people did. Just brought up Cardi B. Cardi B was very well known for having a sponsorship deal with them at one point, or an ambassador deal, if I'm not mistaken, at one point. The point is, what area can you leverage as your unique positioning? Is it your technology? Is it your previous skill and expertise? Is it your relationships? What could you leverage? That's number one. Number two, once again, taken from virtual mentors, right? And what has worked for them. They're not competition, they're mentors, right? They're contemporaries. What aren't they providing? Now, that's actually easier to figure out. I shook everything, right? Well, sure. I speak with my hands. That's why a lot of times I'm standing up and doing it because I might shake the tables and stuff like that. What are they not providing? What aren't they doing? What does their audience need? That's where Fashion Nova actually excelled, right? They would make dresses, they would make outfits for body types that were not being catered to. Now everybody want to do it, but originally not everybody was doing it. What are your competitors not doing, not saying, not addressing, not providing value for an audience that is clearly looking for that? That's the key. What do they look? What is the audience looking for that the providers are not providing? Right? That the outlets are not providing. The demand is there, but they're not supplying it. Can you supply it? From a profitable standpoint, right? Can you be profitable and do that? So those are the two things: leverage, knowledge, skills, experience that you can bring to the table. Relationships, Fashion Nova. Technology and skill set of the founder was Shein. Number two, what aren't they doing? What aren't those suppliers currently doing that you can do, that you can provide and still be profitable? That's how you compete with the big, e-commerce brands. But don't worry about really competing with them. You're focusing on what's going to be my unique positioning as a brand, because that's a brand. The value you bring, the value that you have, the value in the relationship you have with your audience. That was a great question. Fantastic question. Thank you to Price Tags for asking that question in our quarter spaces, and I think that's going to help a lot of people. That's why I don't care what, I'm not going to start naming guys, but I don't care what any other digital marketing agency, whatever. I mean, not that I don't care what they're doing, but I don't look at it as, oh, they're doing that, we got to do it. Oh, what are they doing over there? I need to change up so I can either do that or compete against that, because I could destroy relationships. I could hurt myself, financially or from a business standpoint, trying to imitate someone else. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. All right, let's do one more good old question from Quora. Vincent, I'm sorry, that question is very interesting, but it doesn't make any sense. How can I build my business on a website, my business on a map? I don't know. I'm sorry. Uh, guys, this is how I really am. I mean, I keep it a bean, bro. Um, yeah, I don't know. I would on a map. On a map. I mean, Google Map is there. MapQuest is still around, to my knowledge. To my knowledge. To my knowledge. Let's see. I'm gonna go down the list because I want to show people me skipping them. That's kind of a tough one because that don't make no sense. Sorry about that, Vincent, but sorry. Okay. Here's a good one. What growth strategy should a small startup adopt? This is from the group. Oh no, sorry, Arian. Yeah, Ariane. Sorry, I know somebody named Ariane, so I should be able to pronounce, even though it's spelled a little differently. Hopefully, it's still pronounced the same way because I know an Ariane who's awesome, awesome person. Okay, so, and it's definitely not because it's a different last name, but I'm not gonna say your last name because I understand. But Thank you for, like I said, I always tell people, put your name in so I can give you a little shout out. Hopefully you're watching so you can check it out. We share the live link in quite a few places. So hopefully, you get a chance to see it. All right. What growth strategy should a small startup adopt? So just want to clarify. I always say this when it comes, the word strategy pops up. We want to make sure we define the difference between a strategy and a plan because it happens, those lines get blurred all the time. Plan acts, task of execution, right? I'm going to do this, we're going to do this to make this happen, that kind of thing. That's a plan. Strategy overall, right? Perfect example. We're going to leverage our current or well, yeah, our current past experiences and current knowledge and skills to achieve certain goals. The activities themselves of the plan. So in this case, the term is, or what Ariane is asking is, what growth strategy? All depends on should you a sort of small startup adopt? All based upon where you're at and what the goal is. Because you can have a growth strategy that, from a SWOT analysis standpoint, right? Your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, SWOT. It's way out of the realm of possibility for you, right? So the very first thing you should do is that SWOT. The next thing you should do is, well, what's our goal? Why would you do the SWOT before the goal? Because SWOT is just there. Here are our strengths. We have $100 million in the bank. Okay. We also have two people who are certified in Google Analytics, Google Ads, analytical tools. They know Salesforce front and back. They master Tableau, things like that. Those are strengths, right? Weaknesses are, it's only two people in the whole company. I know that sounds crazy combination, but you got 100 million in the bank. But that's my point. Is that it is what it is. The opportunities are there are there's a demand growing in this marketplace, and specifically there's grant money out there, or there's funding, or the people are getting loans. Those are opportunities. The threats, because remember these are all external stuff. External threats could be, yeah, but there's also like 50 freaking new agencies jumping in this marketplace, right? So market share is about to shrink. And here's the worst part, those new agencies jumping in, they got like 50 employees. It's two of us. No matter what your goal, those are going to always be there. Those are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Now, your goal, what's my goal? Well, the goal is we want to have, 50 clients. Well, why do you want to have 50 clients? What's the overall goal? Because we want to have greater market share. Because with greater market share, we can ask more, money, however, whatever your goal is. Your growth strategy should be based around those things. So, if you want to determine what the growth strategy should be, or you want to define and really outline what that growth strategy should be, smart move. Very smart move. Like I said, I just want to clarify in the beginning what's the difference between a plan and a strategy. But now you need to make sure whatever that the growth strategy, you can't map that out. You can't plan that out. You can't outline that. You can't do anything with it until you know what's the goal and what are your current strengths and weaknesses. And of course, your opportunities and your threats should be along with those. You need to have those two areas defined before you can go into, well, what's our growth strategy? Because once you know this, my strengths, my weaknesses, what's out there, what isn't out there, what could potentially hinder me, and then also what's my overall goal. Okay, well, that strategy is how you reach that goal, right? Because if you have a strategy, well, that's great, but why are you trying to grow? What's the goal? Oh, we just want to grow to grow. Okay. Well, that's kind of like when people say, I want to be famous. Well, you can be famous for a lot of things. You can be famous for, I'm not going to say what you, I was about to make a very sarcastic and bad joke, but you can be famous for a lot of stuff. You can be famous for doing a lot of dumb stuff. You can be famous for doing a lot of crazy stuff. You can do, or you could be famous for doing a lot of influential and helpful things too. You can be famous for many things. It's like when people say, "I want to be rich." Well, you can make a lot of money by doing some stuff that's really kind of bogus, okay, and not right. But you just said you want to be rich. Well, growth strategy. Why do you want to grow? Right. So you have to define those things before you could say, well, what type of growth strategy um, your startup should adopt. So, hope that answers your question, Ariane. But focus on first SWOT analysis. And defining, just clearly define this. These are this one thing, or these are the 50 things that we want to achieve. These are our goals as a company, as an organization, as a startup. And then you can build the growth strategy to meet those two. Okay. So with that, great questions. Thank you to Price Tags as well as Ariane for these cool questions. Vincent, I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question. I don't believe there's any dumb questions. I will never say there's a dumb question, but there are questions that just boggle my mind. And that was one of them. I'm just being real with you. I'm just being honest. If you know, you know. All right. With that, mañana, finish the welcome email, produce the first post, which, well, as we all know, is our article newsletter for that new one, for the new Substack. That'll be shared out with you guys. If you are not subscribers to the Substack, there's a link in the description. My Substack is free. My Substack is free. If you want to be a founding member, there is an investment for that, but that helps us produce more digital products, more tools, more production, and doing a lot more. We got to get some stuff going. One of the last videos, some people heard me working on this. I'm like, yeah, we building some stuff, literally, physically and digitally, building a lot of things. So that's where a lot of those investments go, and specifically to those founding members, you guys will start to enjoy a few more perks as we grow out on Substack. Because I'm not getting off Substack. I like Substack unless it makes some crazy turn left, crazy turn right. I don't know. I'm sticking with it. I like it. I have said it before. I have no problem saying it. I say it right here. I could see Substack being a full-on replacement for all social media, for me at least. I'm not for everyone else, but for me for sure. I will always stick with LinkedIn. I just love the LinkedIn platform. Unless once again they do something crazy out of the box, but they've actually made some significant improvements. I've mentioned two things they need to actually bring back that they've gotten rid with, but but I have no problem getting rid of an Instagram, a Facebook. I'm not even on X anymore. I wasn't even on X. I was on Twitter originally. Yeah, frankly, Substack is a great place to be. So we're going to really build this out, have that full compilation video exclusively on the Patreon. I will share a link to it because I would love to, if you guys want to join the Patreon, it'd be awesome if you could support there. And then also, we will have, a breakdown of how we change some things around. I might even make a little tutorial for you, just to check it out. But this was kind of our creative session, not the typical creative session, because normally I'm not talking, I'm just vibing out, doing my thing, and you guys are kind of watching it and connecting, and send me a chat. I'll say, hey, what's up, y'all? What's up, peace? Thank you. And that's what we'll be doing with the welcome email tomorrow. But with that, guys, I thank you and appreciate you guys for sticking around and jumping on and checking out us build out the Substack. It looks a little different now. It's going to look a lot better in a minute, too. Like I said, I got last two pieces to put with it. And if you can, keep bumping this thing. If you can, check out Chicago Open House. Go do that. It would be awesome. Hopefully I see you there. Like I said, 3 neighborhoods. I will be posting from those different places. I might go live a few places, but I'm definitely going to be posting from a few of the places I see. And, sharing that with you guys as well, sharing the photos that I submit. I should say, I'm going to share the photos I take, but not necessarily the photos I'm going to submit because those have to be only submitted and then they'll let us know. So hopefully I see you guys around, or just see what your content is. If you guys are going to post from one of those places you're able to join. With that, I've been your host. Like, this is the podcast, right? For those who don't know, for the Ambitious Show podcast, um, I've been your host, Aaron Muhammad. Anywho, thank you for joining once again. Peace, best to you and yours, and always keep on creating. Deuces. Let's get out of here. I might answer a few more questions tomorrow, though. Just, I might actually try to answer Vincent's question too. Maybe. We'll see.